First, second, and last stanza. When we walk with the Lord in the light of His Word, what a glory He sheds on our way. While we do His good will, He abides with us still, and with all who will trust and obey. Trust and obey, for there's no other way to be happy in Jesus, but to trust and obey. Not a shadow can rise, not a cloud in the skies, but His smile quickly drives it away. Not a doubt or a fear, not a sigh nor a tear can abide while we trust and obey. Trust and obey, for there's no other way to be happy in Jesus, but to trust and obey. Then in fellowship sweet, we will sit at His feet, or will walk by His side in the way. What He says we will do, what He says we will go. Never fear, only trust and obey. Trust and obey, for there's no other way to be happy in Jesus, but to trust and obey.
Okay, well, today's going to be baptism. It's going to be exciting. Just remember at 10:45, meet at the bleachers, okay? At this point, you're dismissed to your Sunday school classes. Actually, I do need the map.
Okay.
Yeah. Good. Okay. Okay, and for those of you who are following, turn to Acts 1:8, and we might be close to finishing our series on God's plan in reaching every corner of the earth, okay? And unto the uttermost parts of the earth. Okay, Acts 1:8. And some of you guys might have it memorized, especially if you graduated from our Bible Olympics. One of the memory verses is Acts 1:8. Okay. And it says, and ye shall receive power. After that, the Holy Spirit has come upon you. And ye shall be witnesses unto me both in Jerusalem and in all Judea and in Samaria. And the last part, unto the uttermost parts of the earth. So God has to fulfill His prediction, prophecy, uttermost parts of the earth. So we're going to look at the map. Oh yeah, and those of you who are praying, our number's up to 33. Okay, so let's continue to pray. And can someone bring down the blinds and turn this one? This is the hardest one to deal with. I'm beginning to learn. Maybe I should leave it down and turn it. Oh yeah, this has no turning. No wonder it is. I've lost. So this is what I said to Benny and Stephanie. Hey, do you guys enjoy watching the 49ers lose on Thursday? The the Rams gave it away. They were supposed to win by a big margin. There. Getting worse and worse. Okay, I learned it. Hold it much more perpendicular. Okay, here we go. So, can someone turn off the lights? And I'm not going to make you guys tell me who brought what, because I have too much to cover. Okay, thank you. Okay, so let's talk about the mind of God. When God wrote this, this was, well, I'm going to actually ask several people here. Have a red letter Bible? Raise your hand. Does anyone have a red letter Bible? Okay, so I will ask people in the back row. Sammy, who was the one that said Acts 1:8? Okay, thanks, Norma, if you can't see it. Was it Paul that said Acts 1:8?
Yes.
Wrong. Okay, let's go with the next one. Who said Acts 1:8? I have a red letter Bible. It's in red. So, how many in the audience have red letters in their Bible? Okay, you do. Okay, so at least you know it's worth paying the extra to know that Jesus said that the gospel will go to the uttermost parts of the earth. So therefore, Jesus is a prophet, and he has to keep his word, or God has to keep his word. So let's talk about the mind of God. At the time, they only knew this existed. Okay, they didn't know there were other parts of the earth. They didn't know about this and that and that and that and all the little islands in the Pacific. So when Jesus made the prophecy, he knew what God intended. And let me just mention one of the big things that hasn't happened yet at the time was the year 600. So therefore, God knew ahead of time that this is going to be a race. The race is to bring Christianity to the world before the other religions. The first religion was the Hindus, and they worship multiple gods like Shiva and Vishnu and Ganesh, and I didn't memorize all the multiple gods. And Hindus started spreading basically this area. It never got beyond. Okay, it did make it to Bali. Like Faye visited Bali, Indonesia, and she may notice that they weren't Muslims there. Okay, every island here is Muslim except for Bali. And then Buddha, also from India, his religion didn't catch on in this area, but it spread into China, Japan, Korea, Southeast Asia, especially Thailand and Burma, if you've been to Thailand and Burma. Okay, now Jesus is in the scene the year 100. He makes a prediction. Okay, it's going to be to the uttermost parts of the earth. Okay, so there's so much they didn't know. They didn't know what Africa looked like below here. To them, they brought ships up to here and they noticed you can't pass over here, you can't pass over here. They made an assumption that in Africa you can't pass this way or that way because they've never mapped anything below this. Okay, so let's go really fast in a nutshell. Christianity and God's plan. So God's plan is he has to reach all this before the years, the Muslims show up, before the Buddhists. The Hindus didn't make it very far. Okay, so here we go. I'm going to go really fast. Constantine said the Roman Empire is now Christian. So we got that. Vladimir said the Russian Empire is now Christian. Okay. God brought apostle to Ethiopia, Matthew, Mark, to India, the Syriacs throughout Middle East, the other Christians starting with the M, okay, all the way to China. Okay, so right now I can't remember what the N Christians, the Nestors. Okay, the Nestor Christians brought it to China. So he basically covered everything. Now, Muhammad came in, and by the way, North Africa, everything was Christian here. And then Muhammad showed up and then killed all the Christians here, and that's why this area is Muslim. Okay. That's the year 600. Okay, so how does God's plan fit? This is how God's plan fits. He has to make sure that Christianity exported to all sections of the world, except no one knew what the world was. So he was going to do it through the navigators. So the most important year to remember is not Columbus, which is 1492. The most important year is the year 1400. Okay, so there's this really big thinker that was coming into the Renaissance. His name is Henry the Navigator of Portugal. He's a king of haven't discovered around the world. So we're going to see. So God used Henry the Navigator everywhere the Portuguese lands, basically Christianity is brought there. Okay. So in the year 14, just remember there's certain years you have to remember. Okay. The year 300, Constantine. The year 600, Muhammad. I'm not into memorizing years, by the way, but the year 1200. Does anyone know what happened in the year 1200? Okay, Marco Polo walked all the way here. Okay, so you see the progression 3, 6, 12, right? Okay, so, and now you got 1400. There's no pattern on the 1400. Just remember, Henry the Navigator said, I bet there are other countries, other islands around the world we haven't discovered. Okay, so he sent his first men into this area, and farther out, they discovered the Azores. They discovered, in 15 years, they discovered Madeiras. In another 15 years, they discovered Azores. They said, well, we don't know what Africa looks like. So everywhere the Portuguese lands, a European colony lands, you're going to bring Christianity. And this is Muslim. So we got to beat the Muslims at their game right here. Okay, we need to reach as many as we can here. So the first navigator came in this area, and we can just let's just say his name is Diaz. Okay, and I'll make it easy. So Shane, what does Diaz mean in Spanish or Portuguese? What?
Yes.
You said days?
10.
10. Oh. I didn't pronounce it right. Dias. Days. Okay. His name is Days. Diaz. Okay, so Diaz came down this way and discovered this one, Bissau. So today he's still Portuguese speaking. And he came to here, and last time Shank told us that Sierra Leone in Portuguese means mountain lion. And I did a little bit more research. He came to this area in the country of Benin, which I'll be going to during Thanksgiving. And he named the city, and I'm going to tell the name of the city to him, but I know he doesn't know Portuguese, so I don't expect him to know it, but he can guess. They call the city Porto Novo.
Newport.
Yeah, Newport. Okay, so they didn't know that Africa turned in. They just thought it went straight down. So they turned in. This is the Gulf of Guinea, and of course, last time Shang told us that the capital of Nigeria was Lagos, which means in Portuguese lakes, and they discovered islands here. Cape Verde, and what does that mean, Shang? Cape Verde. Green Cape. And also they named this area São Tomé, and I don't expect them to know that one. Do you know what São means? Okay. Okay, saint. Okay. So Saint Tomé, Saint Thomas, and they still own Angola, and they made it around here. Oh yeah, they made it to there, and they named it the Cape of Good Hope. This is what Diaz did. He kept on sailing down, down, and down, and down, and then they got lost. It was really scary. They didn't know how to get out. So when they reached the equator, has anyone been south of the equator? Okay, and what country was it? Peru, okay. Do you know your constellations? Okay. So when they went south of the equator, the North Stars disappeared, the map. So for a navigator, you and I, if you want to know what the map of the world looks like, you look at the map of the sky. Okay, God has a map in the sky. You just follow the map in the sky. Map of the sky shows you the North Star, and you use everything. But when they came down here, the North Star disappeared. So I had a chance to go to Rio de Janeiro. I didn't see the North Star, so I had to work backwards. I heard a story. The story was a Portuguese sailor came down here and they got lost because they didn't know what the stars were. And they prayed to God. They prayed to God that God would give them a sign. So when God gave them a sign, they saw a cross. Okay? And uh, they saw a cross like this. Okay? So they figured out this is God's sign so that they won't get lost, and this is called the Southern Cross. So when I went to Brazil, I looked at the sky, and this sounds kind of weird, but when you look hard enough, you can see crosses all over. There's always stars. And I went to Rio, and I saw this. So I saw this. And I said, hey, wait a second. It doesn't work. This is not in the south. I know where the south is. If anything, it is in the east. Okay? And then I had to go back home, look up what does it mean. And it means this. By the way, do you know what the Australian flag looks like? Okay. And what does the Australian flag have on it? It has a Union Jack and what? A diamond, the Southern Cross. I went down there and I said, hey, wait a second, this is not in the south. Then I did some research when I got back to San Francisco and says, and the Portuguese said they prayed to God for a sign, and God sent them the Southern Cross, and the Southern Cross points south. Okay, just like the Big Dipper, the pointed stars points north. The Big Dipper isn't the north. Anyway, Diaz followed the star and ended up down here, and they got lost and they're afraid of dying. So they prayed really hard and they just sailed the opposite direction. And they bumped into this. Okay. And when they bumped into this, it's like, oh, we found Africa again. I was going to ask you in the audience, but we don't have time. What would you do if you got lost down here? You'd go up north. And they call it the Cape of Good Hope. Okay. And then they came around here. They claimed they claimed Mozambique. He landed in Madagascar. And that's the farthest Diaz made it. But when Diaz made it, he told the whole world, hey, you know what? We found that Africa doesn't continue. It just comes up to here. So you can see God brings Christianity through Diaz up to here. And then De Goma finally says, okay, I'm going to bring it, continue. He goes to Tanzania. He makes it to Oman. When I went to Oman, I saw a Portuguese fort. He makes it to Goa, which is owned by the Portuguese. And they name, did I ask you last time about what does Bombay mean? Okay, so they named the city in India Bombay. So would you like to guess what it means in Spanish or Portuguese, Bombay? Okay, so the answer means the good bay. Okay, so when you ask a typical Indian, oh, it's called Mumbai. Where do you guys get Bombay? It says, well, the British can't pronounce Mumbai. That's stupid. Okay. The reason is because the Portuguese named it Bombay. And when the Brits showed up, oh, what's this place called? Oh, it's called Bombay. And then they continued. They landed in Sri Lanka as far as East Timor. They had a colony in Macau. I mentioned Taiwan, Formosa, and last time he told Zhang mentioned Formosa means beautiful in Portuguese, and they made it to Japan. So God has a race to win this area before the Muslims come over, and he did do it through the Portuguese. The next set were the Spanish. Okay. Oh yeah, one last person. Cabral. Does anyone know what Cabral discovered? So we know Diaz, we know Goma, we know Cabral. Cabral, so it takes almost a year to do this. And Cabral says, I got a faster way to do it. Okay. I'm going to not hug the coast. And that takes forever. I'm going to just swing. I'll start from the Azores and just take the current all the way down this way. So as he was taking the current this way, he bumped into an island. He thought it was an island. And that island we know today is Brazil. So look, Jesus' prophecies fulfilled. It's getting fulfilled in that this area is being reached, and someone actually hit that. And let's talk about the Spanish. So Columbus said to Princess Isabella, Queen Isabella, look, it's taken them 100 years, and Diaz only made it up to here. Da Goma hasn't made it to there yet. You don't want to wait 100 years, do you? Please give me 3 ships, and I got the shortcut to India. Of course, he bumped into Bahamas, meaning lower sea. He named this on Sunday, Santo Domingo. He hit this little Venice, Venezuela, and he hit Nicaragua. So now you see that, and last of all, following Cortez, and so that therefore Christianity is being brought to this area. Let's go faster. Magellan, he sailed this way and to Uruguay, Argentina, Chile, Peru, all the way to the Philippines. He died. The Filipinos killed him. They had 5 ships, and this guy named Cano continued and made it back. They only had 1 ship and something like 40 men left. They had 500 men to begin with. Okay, so you can see Christianity is brought to here, and let's fast forward here. The Dutch started saying, "Hey, we need to claim our area too." The Dutch came this way, claimed New York. They claimed Sri Lanka, and then they came all the way here, and they claimed Indonesia. They discovered Australia through Tasman and Tasmania. And then the Brits, they didn't have to discover anything. All you had to do is steal everything. But they did discover a couple of things. Captain Cook, which is where Captain James Cook came all the way here, and he wrote where boldly go, where no man has gone before. He mapped all of this. He found all these islands like Tahiti, Samoa, and Tonga, and he discovered this. I mean, George Island, and he discovered Hawaii. Okay, so what Jesus said, to the uttermost parts of the earth, getting those islands is pretty uttermost. And I will talk more about this in a moment. Then the Brits, basically the Brits stole everything. So whoever has the biggest ship, the most powerful navy, gets to steal all the territories around the world, okay? But we know that John Smith sailed here. They claimed this. And the French were in this area. And in a nutshell, the Brits basically took everything the Portuguese and the French and the Dutch had. This used to be called New Holland. They took over the entire. They took over. They took and called it Australia, and so now we're going to talk about the land of God and the gospel. Okay, is there anything else I didn't cover? Okay, so the way it works is, I believe God knows that the United States one day will form and send more missionaries around the world than any other country. In order for the missionaries to be effective, they got to speak English, right? Missionaries just don't know all there are, 1,000 languages here, many languages here, many languages here. But in God's mind is, okay, I'll send the missionaries from the United States, but I will just somehow get it so that the majority language is either English, French, or Spanish. So I just want to say the easiest language in the world to learn right now, you guys know, is English. Okay, the second most easiest language to learn for Americans is Spanish, and the third most easy language is French. Okay, so let's Let's look at God's plan for Africa. So England basically says, we're going to take whatever we want in Africa, but it has to have a coast. It'd be nice to have a coastline or a lake. So basically, they take anything on the coast, and they told the French, you can have the leftover, the deserts. So the French have Mauritania, Morocco, Mali, Niger, Chad, and the Brits don't want to do the interiors. Okay, so they'll say you can have Central African Republic, you can have Congo. We don't want to go that deep. We just want the coast where all the ports are, where all the money is. So I did an analysis this week on what God's plan was on the top, the most populous, 10 most populous nations in Africa and what language they speak. So out of the 10, I actually might as well, I don't have it memorized, but out of the 10 populated areas, God actually had the Brits take the 10 most popular areas, which means later on he knows then the American missionaries can reach this area. They ready. So what are the 10 most populous countries in, so let me just do this. Okay, top, I had it kind of memorized. Okay, here we are. The top 10 countries, and let's see what languages they speak, and is this a coincidence? The number one largest country in population is Nigeria. Do they speak English? Yes. Number two, yes, they speak English if you go there. Number three, Egypt. Do they speak English? Yes. Number four, Congo. Do they speak English? So I'll ask people in the back row. Dominique, does the Congo speak English? Okay, they don't. They speak French. Okay. Number five, Tanzania, English. Number six, South Africa, English. Number seven, Kenya, English. Number eight, Algeria. Number nine, Sudan, English. Number 10, Uganda, English. So 8 out of the 10 most populous countries. So God had a plan, okay? God's not going to pick the 10 smallest countries. So therefore, we can send missionaries there. Well, what about the French ones? So there are 22 English-speaking countries in Africa. There are 24 countries that speak French. So I think Shang and I will agree that Spanish is the second easiest language, right? For, Mandarin is not easy. I work on it all the time. I still can't get it. Spanish is. So God wanted to make sure that Americans can learn Spanish. So Americans have been sending evangelicals in this area. Brazil used to be Catholic. Now the number one religion is the evangelicals. In Africa, I'm going to just talk about French. How many here know French? Okay, French is actually quite easy to learn. Okay, they share. I would tell people this when I'm teaching Mandarin. I would tell the kids, okay, the word in Mandarin one is big, right? And what is it in Cantonese? Dai. What is the word small, shell, and su? I said, notice they start with the same alphabet. So for those of you who don't know French and Spanish are dialects. The majority of the words in Spanish start with the same alphabet as in French. Okay, so therefore, it's really easy to learn. If you think Spanish is easy to learn, French is easy to learn also. So do the French care that the American evangelicals are coming into this area? And the answer is no, because the French don't even go to church. Why should they care that the Americans are coming in, bringing in Christianity versus the Muslims, which is the big enemy? So I would tell you that when I went to, I tried to go to church in French-speaking countries. Okay, and I'll cover that next time. Okay, so let's bow for a word of prayer. Dear God, we want to thank you that what Jesus said is true. Uttermost parts of the earth is what you're going to do in the future. We want to thank you in Jesus' name. Amen. Okay, let's have everyone go to the bleachers.